Hey, what is going on, everybody? Bauer Brown here. Welcome back to the channel, guys, and welcome to one of the final videos in the Deco House series. So what I'm going to attempt to do here is wrap up this Deco House series because I want to move on to some Farm Sim 25 stuff. There's a lot to learn and a lot to go over, right? But we are at the tail end of this series, so I want to wrap this up. And maybe we can move on to some other things, right? I've been dragging this one out long enough, but anyhow. So let's jump right into it. So where we left off last time, I have to think about this. I believe we were going over some vertex colors, right? So we painted everything in, and we have all our materials made up, and there's a color assigned to everything. Or do I have colors assigned? It doesn't look like I do right now. Let's see here. Let's go up to texture paint. No, not texture. Yeah, it's been a while. All right, let's try this. Let's go to vertex paint. It's hard to say if I have paint on here. I vaguely remember doing all of the colors on here. And why I can't see them. I believe that I did. I believe all the colors are done. I would expect to see the colors on here, but maybe not. Interesting. All right. Is it something I'm missing here? Let's go to solid. Hey, there they are. How about that? I'm so tired of this thing. These guys use this OneDrive at all. I try not to ever use it. And for some reason on this computer, I didn't realize it was on. And it was literally saving all my stuff to OneDrive, and I did not want that. Decided to get rid of it, and whatever. Anyhow, that doesn't matter. Sorry about that. So there's my colors. I see. You got to look at it. View it from solid. That's what gets our colors in there. All right. So like I said, we had all our materials. We assigned all of the materials their own vertex color. All right. So once we're done with that, we don't have to be in vertex paint mode anymore. Make sure. There we go. What we're going to do now from here is all of these materials that we have, right? Every one of these we're going to delete. We're just going to go through and just erase every one of them. Now, what I do is after I let me go back into object mode, is once I start removing these like so, from this point forward, I don't save anything, right? I keep everything just the way it is. Because the next step is going to be to get this over into Substance Painter. And if for some reason things don't go right, or if there's something that needs to be fixed or whatever, and I need all these materials back, I could just Control Z, get all my materials back, fix what I need to fix, and then re-export it, right? So I'm not really losing anything. Once I know that everything's okay, then I'll save it. I could always save a copy, but this is the way I've been doing it, so it's really not a big deal. All right, so for this material that I have left up here, I left the one at the top, and I guess we'll just call this Deco House, I guess, right? We'll call it Deco House 01. All right, and once that's done, we're just going to export it as an FBX. So let's go up here, export FBX. All right, now I have the main house lit up, and I'm just going to right here where it says limit to, I'm just going to put selected objects, right? So I have main house selected objects. Well, here I got T house. So let's just overwrite that one. All right. So export FBX. All right. Now from there, I want to, let's go into apps. I should have had this started up ahead of time. Oops, that's not apps. Where did I go to? All apps. All right, let's go into Substance Painter. Fire that up. All right, this may take a minute to start, so I may have to catch up with you in just a second. All right, we're in the Substance Painter, and things are just loading up now. Now, I remember in the last video we went over getting the templates, where we downloaded the templates from Vertex Designs, and we got those loaded into Substance Painter, right? Because we're going to need those. So hopefully you guys followed along, got those templates, got everything loaded up in here. and we're going to make use of those right now. So we're going to go up to File, we're going to go up to New. From here, we'll keep this this template, the Giants Engine 8 starter assets, and then File. We'll go back and we'll find our. I was working on other stuff here. Let's see. Let's go into tutorial series if I can find that. It's still Blender, I believe. Yes, there we go. All right, so we'll load that up. Now, the document resolution is the resolution that we're working inside of Substance Painter with, right? And I usually keep it the same resolution that I'm going to be exporting as, which is also going to be a 2K, a 2048. So that doesn't really need to be changed unless you feel the need to go up or down with it, which I'm not sure why you would. So I stick with the same resolution. This way I know what I see is what I get. All right, your normal map format, I keep on OpenGL. I don't really see a reason for DirectX at this point. And then everything else that you see can stay just the way it is. You don't want to play with anything else like import baked maps, physical size, color management, none of that. Everything is good to go just the way it is. So we'll click OK. And that's going to load up our house here, right? Now the controls on Substance Painter, if you're using it, I would imagine you should be semi-familiar with what the controls are now. Same as you would have inside of Giants Editor, right? Same thing. All right, so from here, this we're going to go up to this croissant-looking thing where it says baking. All right, click on baking. And you want to make sure up here on the texture set list that you only have one single texture showing up. If you have a list, something didn't go right, right? So maybe you didn't export right. You have all of your material showed up maybe. This is why we delete all of those materials. All right, now we're going to go down here to where it says ID, all right? We're just going to highlight it. And up here where it says color source, we're going to click this list here and we're going to pick vertex color, right? Because we gave all of our materials a vertex color. All right, so from there, common settings, right? Go back up to common settings. And our output size, also make sure this is 2048, right? So if you want to go bigger, you'd be at 4096 or smaller, 512. All right, and I have gone up and down. I don't know where that dilation width was at before I messed it up. That's all right. All right, but I have gone up and down depending. If it was a smaller object where I could get away with like a smaller output size, I'd either go with a 1024. I've gone down as small as 512, 256 even, depending on the object. Or if it's a much bigger object, I might have to go up to 4096. Now, looking at some of the stuff in FS25, it looks much more detailed than it did in 22. And I haven't really looked into their textures yet, but I'm kind of wondering if they're not using 4K now on some of their textures. Hard to say. But we'll get into that when we get into the FS25 stuff. All right, so from here, we do have other options when we're working on, depending on the model, right? So we could be using a high poly model to texture. We use a high poly model. We're going to be texturing a low poly model, but we're going to use the high poly model for our details, right? For our normal details and stuff like that. You can do that. In this instance with this Deco house, we're not going to. All right, but this is an option that you could use somewhere down the road, as well as use Cage, which I don't use much, but I will show you guys at some point how to work with this, how to use a high poly model for your details and then transfer those details over to a low poly model. It works out really, really well. I've done a lot of models like that. I did like a corrugated pipe. Now the corrugated pipe that I made had all of the details in it, and it was huge. Like when you looked at all the all the polygon count and stuff like that, it was really, really high. But then I basically baked it off of that model onto a model that was just a plain straight tube, right? It didn't have any ridges or anything like that in there, and it turned out really, really nice. All right, and I'll show you that one day. I think I've done 55-gallon drums the same way, but like I said, that's for another video. But just keep that in mind, that that's something we will be doing somewhere down the road if we keep up with more of this series. It seems like I have so many videos to make, and I just don't know where to go with them anymore. All right, so once we have this set, common settings, we have set to 2048. We have our output resolution, well, yeah, that's what I meant. We have our output size set to 2048. ID, make sure this is on vertex color. And from there, we can just go ahead and we can bake our selected textures. All right, so now what we want to be looking for once this baked, and I'll show you because it seems to happen to me every time, and there is a way to fix it. All right, so we'll go back to return to painting mode, okay? Now I can see right by this front door that I had a bit of an issue there, right in between the window and the door. Now if I go up here to where it says material, and I'm gonna go down to normal. Is that loading, not loading? It should be loading my normal map, which it's not. All right, let's go down to mesh maps, normal, there we go. All right, so, I got that problem in 2 areas. You can see these gray areas here, all right? And what it's doing is it's not reading the normal information right. Now back in Blender, right? So if I go here and I look at, let's look, it's solid, and we'll go into edit mode. All right, it has something to do with this, the point here for where your normal is. Sometimes if I divide this up, it gets a little bit better. Same with this roof up here. You can see how it's not exactly centered. It's the point for the normal is sitting down here, right? And that's what's causing that. So sometimes I would divide this up. I would run another line down here, or it kind of all depends. Normally, what I typically do first and foremost is I didn't want to do that. Is I'll try to just texture it first and see how it turns out, because sometimes it covers up and you don't even notice it, but other times it causes an issue and you have to fix it, right? And I hate when it does it. Unfortunately, as I'm modeling, I never really, everything seems okay as I'm going, so I can never really tell when I'm going to end up with that problem and when I'm not, right? It would be helpful if I knew how to avoid it as I was modeling, but that's neither here nor there. And like I said, to fix that again, I would come back into this model, right? And this is what I would do to attempt to fix it anyhow. And I would just take like my knife tool, and I would actually just start dividing this up. I'd maybe put like a vertical line there, vertical edge, right? And then this side will turn out okay. And maybe I might divide this up one more time, because once you get this normal into the middle, it seems to look a little bit better, right? And it's the same thing over here. Even though this one already is pretty much centered, we're gonna try texturing first, all right, to see how it looks. So all your textures are over here, right? Everything that you want to start out with. Now, if there's a brick, you can go ahead and find some sort of brick. Now, normally what I have is a picture of the house, so I try to somewhat pattern it after the house that we had modeled this after. So let me go into the D drive here and see if I can find a picture of that, which we do have a picture. All right, so it was just like some grayish looking siding, so we can handle that. So let me find some siding. All right, so I think I have some of this in my assets. So let me see if I can, actually, let me go over here because I did download some of them. Downloaded some of them, but it doesn't seem like I have too much in there right now. All right, so let's try something like this wood siding. All right, now with vertex color, what you want to do is when you drag this over, you want to press Control, right? So as you press Control, all your vertex colors are going to highlight. So figure out where you want that and just kind of dump it in there. All right, now it showed up awfully big. This layer 1 we can get rid of. Okay, so let's keep this wood siding, we're going to keep that highlighted, and we're going to go down in here to our properties. Now this tiling, I'll usually tile it to 10, and I'll see what that looks like, and I'll go up or down from there, and that's actually not too bad, right? So it could be maybe a little bit bigger, so I'll go down with it. Now holding shift, just like it is in Blender, holding shift actually lets you go at a slower pace, so you're not like flying through these things. All right, so it's not horrible. This spot up here that didn't look so good, or here, it's not really bad, but we'll see what it looks like when we change the color on this a little bit. All right, so our tiling's okay. If for some reason you didn't have your UVs correct. Now, the reason we went through all of our UVs and we went into we adjusted these, right? So these were all facing the same direction. The same thing with the roof, right? That they were all facing, it wasn't one facing this way, one turned 90 degrees, was just for this reason. When we put these in here, now it's right side up the way that it should be. But if for some reason you didn't pick the right way, you can just go through your rotation and you can change all those by 90 degrees, right? If you needed to. But in this case, we don't need to. Now, I would imagine if you have Substance Painter that you've been playing around with it, right? So you've tried all this stuff and you've tried the offset and the rotation, tiling, the whole 9 yards. At least hopefully you did. All right. But from down here, we're going to go down to materials and we're going to go down to the colors, right? So we're just going to start changing these to more of a grayish color. All right. That house was, so something like that. And then maybe I like to go with a weird color like this so I can see what it is that I'm actually adjusting. And we can go lighter with that, darker with that. Let's stick with a darker gray. All right, we'll try that. All right, I mean, that's not too bad. For the sake of this video, I'm going to leave it. A lot of times I can really fuss over these things and just keep messing around, trying this, trying that, seeing if I like it, if I don't like it. Now, there are ways, again, that we can get this done. If you goof some things up, we can mask it out and we can just lay some textures in without having to like do what we just did, like using control and dumping it on. Again, I think that's going to be for another video because you can do a whole entire house without having vertex colors, right? It's not as easy. It's definitely a lot more labor intensive and it's a bit more of a process, but it can be done. But if you have, let's say you did like most of your house looks okay, but you have just one spot on the other side that's a little bit goofed up, you can fix that, right? And then from there, what you would do is you would highlight the mask itself and we right click and we would add a black mask, right? So everything gets erased from there, right? So it's just masked out. It's not erased. And then from here, what we want to do is we would go into, is it this mode? Is it polygon fill, I believe, right? And then we would actually be, yes, you would just click on each one of your polygons. And basically what that's doing is just erasing it. It's erasing that fill, right? That mask, and it's filling it back in like so. Now, say for example, if it was this wall that you wanted to fix, you would fill in every other wall but this one, all right? And then what you would do is you would take that wooden siding and you would create a duplicate of it, basically. So you could either duplicate what's here or you can slide another one in over here. All right. And then when you do the same thing, we'd mask it out because it's also going to fill in, these objects, right? So we would do the same thing. We would fill these in and leave the rest erased. I know it sounds a little crazy now the way I'm explaining it to you. It's something that I really have to show you. But just so you know, there is a way to fix things, right? So if you have like just one spot on the house that didn't show up quite the way you wanted it to, it's facing the wrong direction, there is a way to fix that without having to go back into Blender and flip everything around again. All right, just so, because I've done that in the beginning, I'm like, damn it, I got one facing the wrong way. So back into Blender I'd go and I'd fix it and get it back in here. And I realized there is a way to mask these things out. All right, so let me see if I can find like a roof here. All right, I have one here. What does our roof look like in the picture? Pretty standard. All right, so we'll drag that up onto the roof, pressing Control, like so. Like I said, it's just texturing. It gets so much easier inside a Substance Painter compared to like if you're working with like I guess it depends. It depends how you're choosing to do your texturing. All right, so tiling. I just find it really, really easy inside a Substance Painter. All right, and never really worry about the colors. Like this has like a greenish look to it. All right, because you can adjust all these colors on most of your materials anyhow. All right, so from here, I'm just going to shoot for a grayish color. So we'll go something like this. We'll go a little bit grayish. And this we'll just do like a dark gray. I guess we're starting to get into black. There we go. It looks pretty good. And the gravel color, we can leave leave the way that it is. All right. And the nice thing about this is when you go through, you can adjust like the amount of gravel, like the dark gravel amount, the gravel coverage, the gravel's density, uh, this tar base, whatever that is, aging. If you want it to look a little bit older, you can ramp this up a little bit, and it'll give you a bit more of an age look to it. Most of your materials have bunches of different settings, right? That you can work with, whether it's like cracks, and here you see leaks, and so you can really tweak your roof to, so it doesn't look so brand new. It looks a little more weathered, looks a little more aged. And they're all different. They all have different options, so it pays to play around with them. After a while, after you've done enough models, you'll get a feel for what each one does. You'll eventually pick out your favorites, right? So you'll have ones that you like, ones that you don't like, and you'll get used to what you can adjust and what you cannot adjust. All right, so this back roof, I couldn't really see that in the picture, but I believe it was maybe some kind of corrugated material. So that's what I'm going to look for, like maybe like some type of metal roof. I got shutters. All right. Well, here's worn. It's a painted fence. So let's go back over here. I got all kinds of stuff here. Here's corrugated rusty. We'll make that into an old roof. Now from here, I have to download it because these are my assets that are currently online. I didn't actually, on my home computer, they're downloaded and they're part of my main library. But here, they're not in my library yet. I still have to download them, but they are my assets. All right, so that one's downloaded. We'll go back to assets, and that should show up over here somewhere. If I can find it. I guess I should have remembered what it was called. That would probably help, right? Oh, there it is. Duh. It's highlighted and everything. All right, let's dump that on there. All right, it's even heading the right direction for me. So let's go back to tiling. We'll make that a little bit smaller. All right, where is my tiling? All right, what am I missing here? Oh, duh, I didn't go up high enough. Yeah, I gotta stop shooting these videos so late at night. All right, and that looks pretty good. And the nice thing about substance painters, you can work with decals, you can work with, I mean, the sky's the limit. You can do so much with this program, and you can see things look really, really good. It's, to me, it's the way to do your texturing, right? I mean, this beats the heck out of, downloading textures off the internet and kind of getting everything together inside a blender and testing them out one by one. And this is just the way to go, man. This really is. All right, I'm trying to hurry it along because I want to show you the way that you export all your textures, and I'd like to have somewhat of a finished product here when we do it. Let's see, what was next? Let's go with this porch railing. All right, so that was like a grungy red wood color. I believe I have that in here somewhere. All right, we'll try this worn paint here. We'll dump that on there. Yeah, it looks a little funky. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to rotate that 90 degrees and see if that helps. All right, that does help. Quite a lot, actually. All right, and we'll tile that over to 10 like I normally do. All right, I can live with that. All right, so that's that. Oh, we got some lattice down there. I don't know how. I do have that somewhere. Let me see if I can go back into the lattice I have, though, is concrete lattice. but I can make it work. I can make it. There we go. That's fine. We'll use that either way. I like to, as much as I can, I like to try to keep everything as true to the original image as I can. And I'll ad lib here and there, and I'll change things up to suit my taste or what I think looks right and doesn't look right. But to me, it gives it that real look, right? It doesn't, I like when things look a little bit older, they look a little bit weathered, they look a little bit used. When you go into a map and you see one of these deco houses that look pristine, there's not a mark on it. It just looks brand new. I don't know. To me, it takes away from the realism a little bit, but that's just me. All right, so let's dump this lattice on there like so. And that's really big. So let's get that down. Like I said, 10 is just my starting point because most times it looks pretty good. And then I can go up and down from there. And we're going to go down quite a bit. All right. Like, whoa, I didn't want to rotate it. I got a couple colors I can adjust, but this concrete color, we're going to make it. There we go. That looks pretty good, right? That was white, right? Boy, that looks pretty good, actually. All right, so we'll do that. Now, this board up the top here was the same material as this, so we're gonna do that twice. We're gonna use that worn wooden paint there, and we're gonna dump that here as well. We'll rotate that 90 degrees. Like that. Go with 10. All right, starting to look like something here. Getting better, getting better. All right. Bottom of that house was like a concrete. All right, so let's see. Let me see if I could just type in concrete here. I didn't want to do that. Give me back over here. Let's see. We have concrete course, concrete wall. These cinder blocks are nice. I use these cinder blocks a lot. They look pretty good. All right, let's go with concrete wall, and I'll just lighten that up a little bit. All right, let's go with 10. Yeah, I'm not even sure I really need to lighten that too much. Yeah, it's very light on the picture. I do have something in here that I think would work pretty good. This is what I was saying I like about my I like about the subscription model, about paying for it. Now, it stinks to have to pay a monthly fee, but I do get free assets every month, and you can see I'm up to 243. That's 243 that are available. So I got quite a few I can use. So I can download concretes for an entire half a day if I want, just until I find the one that I want. But I do like that, right? Because most of what I've been downloading is, everything that has to do with houses and stuff, because that's primarily what I've been working on lately. It's just, deco houses and stuff like that. But if I get to, if I move into something else, maybe doing vehicles or, just something that uses different types of textures, I have tons of them available to me. Now, that's not to say that you absolutely need these, because there is different ways to use PBRs and stuff like that, and there's free ones available on the internet. So you're not, it's not absolutely necessary that you have to have those. All right, so what I do with these now is I just downloaded a new concrete off of my, I guess it was that poured concrete, right? Yeah, poured concrete. It looks darker in this image. And what I'll do is I'll just hit this little eyeball here, and I'll hide the wall that I had there, and then I'll try a new one just to see if that looks any better. And to me, that looks almost the same. But we'll go 10 with that, and then we'll lighten it up a little bit. Actually, I like that. I liked how it gave it that, like how it gave it that look there. Now, what you could do to kind of get around this tiling, see how you got tiling here where it starts the pattern starts to repeat? All right, it's probably either a little bit too big or too small on your tiling. So you could tile that out and either go bigger with it, right? So not as much shows up like that. Or there's ways that you can adjust your offset. But to me, that worked out pretty good right there. I think that looks all right. All right, now I could probably adjust the colors a little bit more. Now you don't want to forget to go back and delete this concrete wall because we're not using that one anymore. All right, so I can go back and maybe adjust. Like I said, I can fuss with these things like all day long. I'm not going to, but I could. I'm going to lighten that up a tad bit. Kind of liked it where it was. Like I said, for the sake of this video, I'm trying not to be so fussy about things. Sometimes I'll just save it and then I'll come back to it a little bit later and I'll, make some more changes because that's going to be very important is to save your project just in case there's things that you don't like. All right, let's do something about that sidewalk there. I can't really see the sidewalk in the picture. My sidewalk comes straight out, but theirs actually joins the driveway. I didn't really pay attention to that when I was working on this, but that's all right. I do have a sidewalk material in here that I'm interested in using. There's stained limestone. Let's try. There's one that I use every now and then. I seem to like it for sidewalks. Works good for driveways too. Now there's a heavy crack concrete. Let's download that because I might want that for the driveway. Hopefully I didn't go past it. I'd like to think that I could spot what I'm looking for, but sometimes not. Yep, and this seems to be one of those cases. It looks something like this limestone, except it was like a concrete. There's an old cracked concrete floor. Let's download that one too. Yeah, I know if I keep fussing with this video is going to end up being really long. I'm trying to spare you guys. Let's see. 30 broken tiles now. Oh, here it is. Square sidewalk. Duh. Yeah, some of these take a little bit longer to download than other ones do. The nice part is, like on my home computer, the way I install them, I mean, I guess it still takes an equivalent amount of time to download them from the Adobe servers. But it is nice that I downloaded all of these at home. And now that I'm on my travel rig, I didn't have them downloaded here, but they're at least all showing up in my list, so I don't have to go through that all over again. All right, let's dump this sidewalk on there. Ooh, that's going to be my steps too. That might not look quite right. I mean, it doesn't look bad. This might be something better suited for the driveway, maybe. All right, now this is where we adjust the offset, where I can adjust, I figure out which offset is which. Yeah, there's my left to right. All right, so something like that, and then we'll tile it up a little bit. Like that. All right, the only thing I don't like is the way these steps turned out. All right, so this is what I was saying here. Oops, and gotta watch, it auto saves. If you kind of don't like the way one thing turned out, like maybe I should have made the steps and the sidewalk a different material. All right, this is where we can start masking that out. We can click on the mask. All right, and then we can right click on that, and then we're going to add a black mask. And from here, we're just going to unmask the sidewalk because we're going to keep that. Now, you don't necessarily have to click on each one. There's a way that you can drag it out like that, but you have to watch because if you nick any of these other parts, like even if it's the back side of the building, if you're doing this on the front side, it'll pick everything all the way out to the back of the building. All right, so we mask that out. Now what I could do is I can go back to another concrete here, like say something I want to use for like the porch area. Let's try. That's the poured concrete. I use that on the bottom. I mean on yeah, I use that on the foundation. I have this old crack stuff. How is this gonna look? All right, so from here, what we're gonna do is we gotta add another black mask. All right. And we're just gonna add it to the steps. All right. Now from there, we got to make sure we're off of the mask, and then we can start tiling it. See how it looks. It doesn't look too bad. What I can do is kind of try to match up the colors a little bit with the sidewalk. So come down here to the color, and we'll match that up, something like that. All right, looks pretty good. We can go a little bit lighter with it, I think. Man, it's not too bad. I'm happy with that. Like I said, I'm going to try not to fuss just because. All right, now the porch itself. Do I want the same material or do I want to make that wooden, concrete? Not quite sure because I can't really see that, can I? I'm assuming it was probably like a wooden porch. Let me go with. I do have something that I can use here. All right, let's try this. Uh-oh. There we go. Yeah, depending on the texture that you use, sometimes it takes a quick minute. All right, now with this one, this is one where I'm going to have to spin it around. So we'll spin that 90 degrees, or at least that's the way I think I want it to face. It actually doesn't look too bad the way that it is. Let's tile that up a little bit. Now, the thing with when you're in Blender, now I don't know if I mentioned this or not, but when we were in the UV editing, when I did my UVs, now I use UV Packmaster. Why is that not opening up? Oops, I didn't want to do that. No, it's not folded down. There is I have a fixed scale, so I used fixed scale in this the normalized scale. So basically, what I did is I got everything to be basically the same dimension, the same scale, right? So not some UVs are bigger than others. So when I use that 10 for everything, like everything is the same scale. So I can start at 10 and I don't have to adjust everything. It's a good starting point for me. And what I mean is by texel density, if you guys played with this at all, with the texel density checker, you know, I did a video on that. That's kind of the same thing where you can get everything to the same scale. All right. So when I'm working on it, I know that 10 is a good starting point. Whereas if you didn't scale everything, you know, you might have to go like 10 or say you might have to go 15 with the roof, 25 with the siding. You might have to go down to like 1 or 2 on the sidewalk. So everything is a different scale, right? So you definitely want to mess with the scale and try to get a fixed scale if you can, because it makes it a whole lot easier when you do your texturing. Like I said, I shoot for 10 and most times it's okay. I can go up or down from there, and I know I'm at least in the ballpark. It's a good starting point. It's a good jumping off point for me. All right, and then from here, I'm just going to adjust the colors to match maybe that. And again, it doesn't look Too bad. All right, I say it's starting to look like a house. Yes, no, yes, I think so. All right, so that's that. Now we can move on to the driveway. What do I have for that? Let me go back in concrete and see what I had for concrete. I was going to use that heavy cracked, right? All right, that doesn't look bad. And again, that's something where I'm going to have to adjust either the offset and see if I can get that in the middle. All right, and then from there, I can probably just go up a little bit with the size. I still got to adjust it. Sometimes this offset isn't the easiest thing to get lined up. Like you have to go pretty far to get it. Like there, I had to go all the way to the end. But it looks good. Or at least I'm happy with it. I don't care what you guys think. I'm just messing with you. Yeah, looks good. So far, so good. Alrighty. Trying to power through this the best I can. Oh man, I got that back porch too. Dang it. A lot of times I'll reuse the same textures that I did from one to the other. But this one I think I wanted to go with maybe. Let's go with these. Boy, that one showed up quick. All right, I'm happy with that. I'm not going to mess around too much with that one. Oh, that was a square sidewalk. Wait, that's not what I want. Let's get rid of that. I saw something over here that I wanted. Like the limestone. Trust me, when you guys get into this, if you decide to go the route of like Substance Painter, oh my lord, you can spend hours texturing some of these things. You try this and you try that, and you'll find that in a lot of instances, like you'll find a lot of things look good, and then you can't make up your mind, and it's just the way that it goes. For anything like me, I'm fussy about stuff, man. Like I'm really fussy. Let's see how this looks. And there's so many good textures out there too. Oh yeah, see that looks good. Almost looks like I know what I'm doing here. All right, I think for this back porch, I'm going to use that same painted wood that I used for the front. Actually, what is this? Rustic painted wood. Let's give that a shot. Let's see how that looks. Oh, that's also the underside of my roof. Yeah, now I'm not so sure. I wasn't going to have the underside of my roof be like a really dark color because it is a light color in the picture. Let's change that to 10, see what it looks like. It's very dark. It's not horrible. Let's go down to the next color. We'll lighten this up a little bit. You know what? I can live with that. It could stand to be lightened up a bit, but I think it looks all right. I'm not going to really fuss too much with that one. All right, now garage door. I had a garage door that I actually had made and I imported it into here. But unfortunately that is local on my other computer. That I can't just download that one from the internet. So I don't have that here. That's all right though. Pretty sure this will work out okay. Yep, as a matter of fact, that looks pretty good. I'm not going to mess with it outside of that. All right, we'll stick with that. Ah, boy. Now with the doors, I like to use these smart materials sometimes. There's like a wood down here that tends to work out pretty good if you're just looking for a wooden door. Even though that's not wooden, it's like a screen door, but today's my day for not caring. You know what I see where I goofed up? I made my window the same color. Now, the only thing with these smart materials is they're a real pain in the butt. See how you have to open it? And then you have to kind of drill down through everything. If you want to change like 90 degrees, it's just a pain. So with the smart materials, I have gone through and like changed everything because like I said, it's not really easy to like even say rotating it. Like you have to go through like say the vanes. All right. You know that the vanes need to get rotated. So you got to rotate those 90 degrees. All right. So you rotate that. Okay. Well, that obviously didn't fix it. So there's the fibers that also needs to get changed. So you'll change that. All right. That's still not there. So secondary color. So basically everything needs to get rotated. There's not a way, at least I don't think, where I can just, yeah, there's not, where I can just rotate the whole damn thing. So these, I have done it, but if I don't have to, I won't really mess with it like that. I'll just find something else that works for me. It's just the way it works with smart materials because the smart materials is just like a one size fits all kind of thing. All right. That door looks a little too grainy to me, so we're not going to go with that. I guess I'll try one more. And again, that would look, it doesn't look too bad, I guess. Guess I'll keep that one in mind. Maybe I'll use it for the back door or something. All right, let's see what I got in normal textures. Yeah, it can definitely be a pain trying to find something that works. I got plain wood. Might be able to dirty that up a little bit. All right, let me try to rotate that. Actually, you know what? That doesn't look too bad. Could throw some dirt on there. Now, if these guys haven't used any of them, these smart masks here, this is how you dirty stuff up. All right, so you go through. I usually do that when I'm all done, is I start adding dirt to stuff. But let's say like the side of the house, you're going to want to play with all of these. But the way I'll do it is say like dirt dusty. We'll take this control like you would with your normal textures. You throw it on the side of the house like so. All right, now it shows up like a whitish color. You're going to have to come back and fix that. So we'll go into the main texture here and we'll go down to colors. Now what you want to do also is right here where it says dirt and moss, you want to unclick those because those show up with these masks all the time. And what that is your building shader mask. It shows up on your building shader mask and you can control the dirt and the moss through there, but it causes more problems for me than it's worth. So I like to keep them out of there and I just control it as part of the main image and not as part of my shader mask. So that's just me. That's something you're going to want to have to play around with if you decide to go this route. All right, and then I'll pick something that's more like a dirt color, like so, darker, lighter. All right, so that's how you add dirt to things if you want a dirty house. All right, like so. It actually doesn't look too bad. Now there's a bunch of different ones like, dirt in the cavities, or you really want to play around with them and try them all out. And like I said, over time, you'll figure out what works for you, what you like, what you don't like. This way, not everything looks super clean. All right. And that looks pretty decent. And again, this has a bunch of settings where these are just the color settings. If you go into the fill layer itself, like down here to mask editor, it'll give you a bunch of like the global balance. That'll change how much of it is showing. Same thing with global contrast, lighter, darker. And then you see, just start playing around. There's a bunch of stuff you can adjust even on these masks. All right. And then you can do the same thing and add some dirt to the door if you want. You can do dirt cavities. Just add some to this door. Ooh, that's going to be dirty. I guess this is where I can show you how that gets adjusted. Actually, it's not too bad, really. But what you want to do is, like I said, you want to go into this to the mask, go into the mask editor. Now, you can blur it up if you want. You can add some blur to it so it doesn't look so defined, right? Just got like a blurry, dirty look to it. The global balance is how much of it shows. You want less or you want more. All right, so I can lessen it up a little bit. Like I said, the sky's the limit with this program. You could really fine tune things. And then if you watch some videos, there's things that you can do with this thing that I don't know how to do, but will blow your mind. I mean, it's amazing the stuff they do. And it's stuff that I eventually want to get into, but right now my main focus has just been texturing my houses, and that's kind of it. So sooner or later I will get into that stuff, no doubt about it. Now, I'm not worried about the window because I can fix that the same way I showed you how to do like the steps. I can just mask that out and we can throw something else in there and that won't be no big deal. All right. I am probably going to cut this short though because I know that this is it's the same for the back door too. How in the heck did I not get my windows? That's so weird. All right. Now the doorknob, I use a smart material for that. I usually use like this bronze. Turns out all right. Yeah, it looks all right. Yeah, I use the same on the front, so that's good. Yeah, see, that looks decent for a doorknob. Okay with that. I mean, you'll eventually get to see the whole thing when it's done anyhow, because I want to show you how to make the LODs in the LOD maker. All right, so I'll go through some of these, and I usually look for like some kind of metal, like steel dark, like these here. We got aged, we got stained, steel gun. All right, let's try this damaged. All right, it looks a little too shiny for me. See, it's nice. You can adjust the roughness. Like if you want it not so shiny, see how we can knock that down, or it's not so glossy. Like I said, there's really no limit to what you can do with this thing. I mean, I don't have enough good things to say about Substance Painter, that's for sure. Now, that's the other one that the other program that I recommended to use guys. I can't remember the name of it right now. I'm drawing a blank. But you should be able to do pretty much the same stuff, or at least really, really similar to what we're doing here. And why can I not remember the name of that? I'm sure you guys know what I mean. All right, just a few more things left here. Like I said, I don't want to take up too much time on this video. Not sure I like how these boards wrapped up around the side of the house, but I think for now I can live with it. See how these boards go this way, but these go the other way? I think that's something I would normally fix, or I would use a texture that doesn't have like such a hard stripe in it. I would use more of a wooden texture, just an overall wood, you know what I mean? Like the front door where you can't really tell what direction it's running in. See, these are the little things that I would fuss over because I don't like the way that looks. So I would probably fix that with something else. But for now, I'm going to spare you guys. All right. So from here, it would be the trim, it would be the windows, the rain spout. Now, the rain spout, I usually use one of these smart materials, and I usually go with like one of these plastic dirty or plastic dusty. You can try them out. Let's try plastic dusty. Let's see how that looks. But there's lots of different plastics now. See how that got like a real dark look to it? It's not necessarily what I want. All right, so let's delete that because I don't really like that. Let's try plastic dirty. All right, that's better. It's plastic and it's dirty. Bunches of different plastics they have there. Okay, that looks good. All right, I'll skip to the windows really quick. Now, the thing that I explained to you guys about this trim work, you know, with the UVs and making sure they are facing in the same direction, is even the wood grain itself, right? If you don't have the right, I guess it depends on what texture you use, but they can look really, really awful depending on what you pick to use for your texture. I try to use like a wood grain. I mean, not always. I don't try. I use what looks good, but like I said, over time you eventually develop your favorites. You figure out which ones you like, which ones you don't like. I'm not sure if I see the one that I usually use in here, but I'll just give you an example, right? So if you use like say this worn wood, this is just going to be an example. I'm not going to stick with this. I'll fix it a little bit later. So it doesn't look horrible, horrible. All right, and it looks decent anyhow because all of my UVs are in the same direction. But if they weren't, you would see like the boards, the seams of the board, like up here, you'd see them going across the top. This one would look okay. You might see them across the bottom. I mean, that actually doesn't look horrible. I might be okay with that. It looks just nice chip paint. I guess the people that own these houses would probably be not so happy with me when I make their somewhat nice looking house look all beat up and dirty and falling apart. That's all right though. It works for me. It works for my maps. All right. Now, what you could do, and you can save yourself too a lot of work, is when you get into the editor, there's always like porch lights and house lights, and those are the objects like the props you add after the fact, right? You don't want to build all those into your model because it's just going to be a pain to do all that. All right, now these windows here, I would usually use like probably again, I would go into the smart material and I would either do maybe like a plastic, like a glossy plastic, and I would just dumb it down a little bit, tone it down. Let's see what I have here. Or how about like a matte plastic? So put that on there. All right, and then we're gonna change the color of that to a white-ish color. Maybe a little bit darker. All right, and let me do the windows for you quick so you know how to do a window. All right, the window was also a smart material. I use this, I have a glass film and a glass visor that I like to use. Now the glass film is it's like a dirty film, which I tend to like sometimes. It depends what I'm in a mood for. So we'll dump that on there. All right. Now this is like a little bit too shiny, but see what I like about it is if I don't know if you can see this, like around the edges where it looks all nice and dirty. See, I kind of like that. But it takes a lot of adjusting because it's like a mirror, right? So we don't want it that you know that shiny on our windows. So we'll move our roughness up a little bit so it's not so shiny. Now you can get it as dark or light as you want and still have a bit of a reflection to it. Now it all depends also what you're going to do with your interiors, right? So one of my future videos, I will show you how to make the lighted interiors that you see on the houses on the models in Farm Sim. I'll show you how to do that with these, and you can leave these windows in place. Now I'll leave these here as a placeholder, and maybe I like it when I get in game. Maybe it looks good, and I'll leave it just the way it is, or I can replace it with a lighted interior from the base game. All right. But for a placeholder, we'll stick with what we have, but I'll get it to where I want it to where it looks good. So if I decide to keep it, it looks okay. All right, so the roughness, yeah, color. We could always mess with the base color, and we can lighten it up or darken it up a little bit if you want. All right, so you can lighten that up so it's not so dark. Now, the thing about everything that you see here in Substance Painter, right, where you're like, wow, it looks really good. Even when you get it in a blender, you're going to be like, that looks really, really good. But once you get it into the base game and we start, messing with like, it applies its own specular mask or its own specular, mask, right? When all that gets added to it, it never looks quite the same, right? It always looks a bit different. Still looks good, but you'll find out that you may need to tweak some things because it never looks quite as good as it did inside of Substance Painter when you were working on it. All right, now for something like that door where I got the door all messed up, what I'll do there, let me close that up. And what I mean messed up is I have the window shaded in. We'll go to, where was that? No, that was the dirt. Those are both dirt. All right. So with this, come on, save. Same thing here. I would highlight the mask, right click, add black mask, and make sure you're on. You have to be on this here where it says polygon fill. And then I would just fill these polygons back in. Okay, like that. And then I could add my window material to that as well. All right, same thing with the back door. I would do the exact same thing back here. As a matter of fact, it's probably white right now. Yep. So I would fill this in. Doesn't always work the way I want it to. There we go. Like I said, with it takes a little bit of practice with Substance Painter, but after you toy with it for a little while, it'll come to you. And lots of tutorial videos. There's no shortage of the things that you're going to find on YouTube, when it comes to learning how to do stuff. Now, the thing I don't like is it also added the dirt to the window. Might not be a big deal. It might actually add to it. It might look pretty good when it's done. But you can do the same thing with the dirt that you did with the texture, and you can mask that out. All right, so it's not a huge deal if you don't want a super dirty window. Or you can go the opposite direction, right? So if you want to add more dirt to your windows, you can do that, right? So you can go up here and you can go through all this stuff. You can dirt spots. You could have, sometimes they have really specific stuff like certain types of rust or you name it, right? So there's all sorts of stuff. So we can take like dirt splashes if we want. And you can add that just to the window and see how that shows up. All right, that's a bit much, but you see what I'm saying, right? So you can go both ways with it if you wanted to. All right, and then the other thing is if you go through here, right? So when you go through a lot of these like not the filters, but maybe like some of the brushes, right? They have like handprints and bullet holes and all sorts of different things inside of here. Now it's going to take a while from the load, but I've done that. I've added footprints, like maybe a dirty footprint, like on a porch, or a dirty handprint next to the wall. Like right here's one of the bullet hole. I actually added bullet holes to one of my models in my new map. It was like an old trailer, and I stuck a couple bullet holes in the side of it. But you can come through and you can put cracks, right? So you can make things look a little bit more worn by adding cracks to it. You could paint on dirt. You can paint on, like I said, there is no limit to the things you can do. Now, I'm not as good with all of them, and I did play with a lot of them to try to get used to them. And, I've gotten okay with some of them, but there's still a heck of a lot that I don't know how to do inside of Substance Painter. All right. So what I'm going to do is I think you guys got the gist of it because I'm just about done, right? I think the only thing I had left to do was to fix the this back door to fix the window. So all right, maybe I'll do that quick because we're almost there. This one I'm going to add the glass visor to it. Oh, wait, I didn't want to do that. Yeah, I do. I want to mask that out. All right. And then I'm just going to add it to the window itself, like so. All right. It's probably easier for me to adjust if I look at. And the reason I'm using this visor instead of the dirty one is because there was already dirt on it. And from here, it's no different than we did with the any of the other textures. I'm not sure why that's not showing up for me. We'll go to the base and we'll start adjusting colors there. Yeah, it's definitely more of a mirrored finish. Knock that metallic down a little bit. It's a little clean for my liking. Let's go back to the, let's try the other one, the dirty glass film. Ooh, what did I do? All right, so I want to adjust the, what do I want to adjust on that? Base, right? I'll go to the glass. Oh, I see what I did. I moved the properties. There we go. All right, we'll make that less metallic. More rough. And then I think the dirt. Did I do something with the dirt? Probably not. Oh, here's a dirt. I like that you can change the dirt color to whatever you want. Probably better darker, I would say. Yeah, it's probably better that way. All right, I'm not going to fuss with this too much. I keep saying that, but yet I keep doing it. All right, so let's just call that finished. I'm going to have to come back and tweak some things, but for now, we'll say that this is a finished model and we're done. All right, so you want to make sure that you save it. It's not a flower pot, so let's not save it under that. All right, and then we'll just call this right here tea house, except I don't need the FBX. We'll save that. Oops. I'm being impatient. I'm going to end up crashing it. I guess I could have looked right down bottom here where it says saving project. So while it may not look exactly like the house that we had, right? There's definitely some differences, but it was still a good jumping off point and you ended up with a pretty decent product, right? So this may not have been some of the things that you would have picked. You might not have picked lattice down here. You know, you may not have picked like a certain type of siding or what have you. You get what I'm saying? But in the end, right, it kind of took some things out of your control. It's a little bit easier sometimes when the decisions are made for you, right? So if you just try to follow along with what the real house has, it gives you a decent look. You're like, you know what? I can live with that. It looks good. It looks natural. They're maybe not all decisions you would have made, but in the end, it looks good, right? It doesn't look too pre-planned or too perfect or too forced. You know, it looks real, looks natural. All right, so that's what I like about that. All right, so from there, we got everything saved. We're good to go. We're not going to lose anything. We can come back to it if we need to. We're going to go up to File, and then we're going to go down to Export Textures. Okay. Now from here, you have the settings, the output templates, and a list of exports. Now I think I explained this in the last video where you go to the output templates and you can look to see which ones we want. All right, so we don't necessarily want Giant's asset because we also want the mask, which is our building shader. And I think what I also do is I added a height mask. Now I think maybe it was an RGB. I can't remember if it was an RGB. I think it was. I'm going to have to double check this one. And then I'll go through here and then I'll just drag the height mask on top of it. And I'll add that as a gray channel. I think this is how I normally add that. Now copy project mask. And then I'll just add this as height. All right. And then I'll save that. I'll obviously save it to make sure I don't lose any of this. So like when I go over to settings, I can save settings. Oops, should have exported first. All right, let's just double check, make sure they're there. Yep, project height. And then from there, you just want to make sure we're going to pick our output directory. All right, and we're going to go into that folder. So we're going to Blender and we're going to create a textures folder. Like so. Select folder. You shouldn't really have to change anything else. Depending on what it is, if you need to go like 16 bits, you can do that. But for our normal textures, we're not going to want to do that. You can keep them as PNG is what you're going to want to do. Unfortunately, you can't export it directly as a DDS, but we will convert that a little bit later. That's probably going to be the next video. And in our output template, you want to pick our Giant's second UV. All right, so that's going to be that. And then from there, it's just export. All right, there we go. Everything's finalized. So we'll close that. And now we can go into our folder and you can see everything that we should have. Now this specular doesn't look quite right. So I have to look into that and see why that turned out the way it did, because it should look like this mask. The mask turned out okay, so I'm not sure why the specular didn't. Could be just because it's so dark, but I don't think so. Something looks a little bit off with that. I don't think I've really had too many problems with like exports having to fix stuff. As long as you're not like me and like mess with everything, it should look pretty good right off the bat. All right, so the specular, oh yeah, see the specular's not right. It should look like this. And I'm missing, what am I missing there? Whatever's in this mask. Oh, it's the mixed AO. Nope, that's not right. Let's try that again. All right, I guess it's gray. All right, so try that. And we'll go back and we'll export it one more time. Everything's still the same. Let's export. Save settings. Go back to our folder, and now it looks right. All right, so pretty good. Now, when I'll show you how to do this when we convert everything over to our DDSs. These all get saved as like a BC1, except for our height mask, which I think is going to be a BC4. I believe so. And this should work pretty well, I think. I don't always use the height mask. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. Depends what I'm shooting for. All right, and then from there, and I'm going to save this for the next video, but we can load these right in onto the house. All right, and from there, like I said, next video, we'll load that into the house. We'll put the textures on the house, and then we're going to export it one more time. We're going to bring it into the LOD maker, and I'll show you how to make your LOD with the textures and everything right on it, and we'll be good. All right, so I know that video went a lot longer than I wanted it to, but I wanted to make sure that you guys, had a good handle on how to take care of your textures. And I'm going to leave things right there. All right, so I'll see you on the next video. With that being said, I'm Bauer Brown. See you on the next one.